Good evening, and welcome to Issues. As you know by now, Issues deal with community topics. And this evening, we are very excited to have the people that run cell phones in Bermuda. Cell phones do not operate without these two gentlemen, Mr. Wayne Caines and Mr. Frank Amaral. I almost feel like standing up and giving them an applause, but welcome, gentlemen.
Welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. Pleased to be here.
Mr. Caines, could you explain to us these Gs, 4Gs, 2Gs, 3Gs, and Frank, you hop in whenever you want to, okay?
Simply without going into too much technical jargon, the G just relates to the speed. Third generation, fourth generation. The reality of it, in Bermuda, both networks are 4G network, and this simply means you can get your pictures, you can get your data, i.e. your email messages, at optimum speed. And so what we're working to do in Bermuda is to give Bermudians the fastest speed possible, and the 3G and 4G just are different levels of speed. 4G, obviously, right now being the fastest in Bermuda.
Okay.
And Wayne's absolutely right. I mean, I think the only thing to add on there is for customers to get what they want in terms of data speeds is a combination of actually having a 4G network and a 4G phone. Mm-hmm. So in fact, we've had customers, saying, well, I know you guys have a 4G network, so why am I not getting a 4G speed on my 2G phone?
Exactly.
So everything needs to be, linked up. So it's a 4G phone with a 4G network.
Now, do your companies, do they still have 2Gs, 3Gs, and 4Gs?
Of course.
Or do you just only have 4Gs now?
We have 2G, 3G networks, and you can't have a type of a 2G network and when you upgrade to 4G, turn everybody off, because everybody doesn't buy a new 4G phone. Mm-hmm. There are people that are very price conscious and have a Nokia, regular phone that they've had for a number of years, and our networks still facilitate those types of persons as well.
Okay. What are the various brands phones that you gentlemen?
We carry everything. I mean, iPhone, Android, which would include, Samsung, HTC, of course, BlackBerry. So the full gamut of, what we call, regular phones and, what everybody's buying today, which is the smartphones. And the smartphone is smart because it uses data. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, I'm glad you mentioned data, and when I mentioned to people that you guys were going to be on, they said, please, the first question you need to ask them is, why are their plans so expensive? As we look at the commercials in the state, they said, if you get the iPhone or one of the other phones, if you get it for $100, you can get a pretty good plan. But here in Bermuda, it seems like it is so expensive.
Sure.
Why?
Well, I'll take a crack at the whole issue of the difference in the price of the phones. Okay. And the one thing which everybody knows about is duty. So duty and shipping, that's another 35%. But the bigger issue, Richard, is the purchasing scales. And to put it in simple terms, let's say everybody in Bermuda has a phone, so 60,000 people. People replace their phones every other year, roughly. So that's 30,000 phones that are roughly purchased every year in Bermuda, right? So let's say Wayne and I have 50-50 of that. So, but say it's 30,000 phones in total being purchased in Bermuda. To put that in context, in the last 3 months of 2012, October, November, December, AT&T sold 10 million smartphones. Verizon sold in that same period of time 6.5 million iPhones. Mm-hmm. And there's just no way that Digicel and cellOne can compete with buying that scale of devices, that number of devices. So like I said, between those two carriers, 16 million phones in 3 months. Bermuda, 30,000 phones in 12 months.
So then we're looking at a couple of things in terms of pricing. We're looking at duty, shipping, and we're looking at number of phones.
Just scale, absolute scale.
But I think adding on to what Frank rightly said is that we have different plans for different types of persons. And so if you look at both companies, specifically with Digicel, there are 300-minute plans, and so a person doesn't necessarily have to go to the highest tier plan. I think sometimes we look at staples and we look at telephones and then we say, listen, this is something that I have to have. This is a device that we want you to have, but we also have different levels of entry, and we have a plan that everyone can be in the game and have voice and have data. We also have prepaid offerings, both companies, that allow a person to have, that is on a budget and extremely prone to pay attention to what their spending is, as we all are. There are plans that accommodate everyone. I think the most important thing for a person to do is audit their bill. Look at how much, if they have a nights and weekends plan, if they have kids, to monitor their taxing, to look at how they're spending their money on their bill. Most people come in and they don't understand the bill, and so that's something for our customer care agents to explain to you. Why is your bill? Why are you having so many overages? How can we simplify your spend? And those are things, if you look more critically at your bill as opposed to the overdue amount, I think we can explain it to you. And if you're not on the right plan, put you on the right plan that best suits your needs.
Oh. And I think, Richard, where the U.S. carriers have done very well, for example, has been with these family plans, where you naturally get a discount for the additional lines on an account. And 2 years ago, cellOne launched the equivalent of that, the share plans.
Yes.
So where you can add another line for $9, and we've just recently launched data share. So that's where a family in particular can save money on a multi-line account.
Okay. Gentlemen, let me ask this question. It seems to me that the more companies you have, the greater the competition. Now, there are only 2 cell phone companies in Bermuda, and you gentlemen are sitting here. Is competition lessened and price increased because there are only these 2 companies?
Well, it's funny you should say that, because Wayne and I are going through right now a process with the regulator, where we're having to provide them with a lot of feedback on some of the things they're planning on changing. And funny enough, one of the things that we addressed, which I think Wayne addressed as well, in his responses back to the government and the regulator, was that since it's only been a two carrier market, when M3 was absorbed into cellOne, prices haven't gone up. In fact, part of the information that we put in was that, in fact, prices have come down with some of the new rate plan offerings that have happened. So it's I would say that competition has not gone away. In fact, it's increased. And Wayne and I are very civil together when we're in the room together like this. But and Wayne knows this. I mean, we are fierce competitors. In fact, Wayne's company internationally in their 30 markets are fierce competitors. And so I can honestly tell you that nothing is lessened in terms of competitions. We continue to do our promotions, and be it phones, be it 3 months free service on internet, whatever it is. So competition is alive and well.
When we speak of competition, you can't do so in a vacuum, Richard. Sometimes people speak of competition in Bermuda as if it is something that they're used to. We're in a country that you have very little choice when it comes to goods and services. I'll go as far as to say, in the cell phone market, it's one of the very few places that you have choice. If you don't like the way that we're doing business, you can take your business right across the street. There are some other utilities in Bermuda that you just have to take.
You have no choice.
You have to accept it. And for such a long period of time, Bermudians have done so. In the cell phone market, you're able to switch and get the device of your choice. You're able to get the plan of your choice. You're looking at plans in both companies. You see, it's very competitive. We believe that when we put something in the market, that it has to be researched, that it has to be the best that the customer could have. It has to be in the market first. It has to be something that is avant-garde, something that is being advertised, a device that is in demand all around the world. So when you see a device come out in America, or you see something that comes out in Europe, you can bet your bottom dollar that we're going to make our every endeavor to have that in Bermuda in short order, so that our customers can be kept up to speed. There are a lot of industries in Bermuda that we don't get the best, and we don't get the fastest, and we don't get the things that are right in this generation as far as technology is concerned. You can't say that in telecommunications, specifically in the mobile phone industry.
And having been part of that merger process with M3, and having spent the first 2 years of my career with cellOne, pre-merger, I can tell you that for us in M3 pre-merger, I mean, it was a struggle in terms of, again, economies of scale, in terms of having two separate networks, and it gets very expensive. So through that merger, we were able to generate savings and synergies, which we've plowed back into the network, which we've plowed back into new offerings like our share plans. So and having 2 carriers for a market this size is not bizarre. I mean, in fact, I think, in the Bahamas, there's still just one carrier.
Yeah. They've recently, in Bahamas, issued opportunities. Bahamas is literally just opening up the Bahamian telecommunications market to others. And so the government has put out, for lack of a better word, RFPs for companies that are interested in coming to Bahamas to do telecommunications. And so if you look at a lot of the other markets, there were cable and wireless was the biggest and the only bad boy in the market for a number of years, in 13 years, since they've had competition in the Caribbean. And most of it was initiated by Digicel. I think Bermuda is in a very good space with the new legislation within the telecommunications framework, the getting away from specific entities being able to only do specific things in telecommunications, opening up the door to let everyone that has the ability to do a convergence of different services. I think that only could bode well for the consumer.
Okay. You gentlemen said something. Is it government that controls the number of cell phone carriers that we have?
No.
Oh, okay. So it's an open industry.
Not necessarily open. They're in Bermuda, to be in any telecommunications industry, you need a license. Yes, the government just doesn't give licenses to anyone willy-nilly. You saw a three-market cell phone market in Bermuda. There had to be specific applications to government with reference to the merger. The market now has two operators. If there was a third person to come into the market, they would have to consider whether this will be a good investment. How much would it cost to put up towers? Where do I get stores from? There is a huge investment with spectrum, and so there are huge considerations to make when you come into a market that is this expensive. Is it a good investment when you're looking at most people tethered to a contract with other companies? Will I be able to maximize my investment if I do indeed try to come in a market as a third carrier? To be honest with you, if there was a third carrier, we have no other choice but to compete. And we believe that if there is a third carrier, you don't want to say it's a race to the death, but it actually is a very aggressive marketplace. So if a third carrier comes in, then we have to be more aggressive with our marketing, and the customer benefits from that. But there is no fear of a third carrier. I don't think it will be in the best interest of the market, but there is definitely no fear of it. Every market has to morph with what the market yields.
Okay. Let me ask this: Digicel, they're global. Is cellOne the same way? I mean, behind Wayne, he has other Digicels all over the Caribbean.
Right.
Is cellOne the same thing, or is cellOne?
We have sister properties to the Caribbean as well, not as of the scale of Digicel, but we do. Yep.
Okay. cellOne acquired M3. As you look back at it now, was it the best thing for you to do?
Absolutely, absolutely. We, I think customers as a whole came out of that. I think in better shape. I mean, we put them onto what I would consider a bigger, stronger network, and we believe wholeheartedly in the quality of our customer service, and we will continue to invest behind the brand and innovate the industry. So it's been successful. I think it's been good for our employees and good for our customers.
Okay. Wayne, Transact. Digicel acquired Transact. Is it the same story as Frank is giving for M3?
I think it's quite similar. We realized that the market was starting to become saturated. And so if you want to continue to be successful and keep the margins up and continue for growth, we believe that we had to diversify. And we looked at an opportunity to just make our offering stronger, to solidify our position for the future. And we just felt it necessary to distinguish ourselves not only in the cell phone industry, but in another telecommunications industry that is an ISP. We entered a new phase, Richard, or a new industry is called ICT, or business solutions. And that allows us to compete with some other companies in Bermuda. It allows us to be a full-service telecommunications provider. Bermuda's telecommunication industry is morphing, and so we believe we were fireproofing our business, just enabling us to look at some other modalities, keeping our staff employed, keeping the arrows going up. And so it hasn't been easy, but we believe, just looking at our 4-year strategy, that was one of the strongest things that we could do in considering the economy.
Okay, we're going to take a break. We've been talking with Wayne Caines and Frank Amaral, the giants of cell phone here in Bermuda. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Issues. Again, if you would like to email us, you can email us at issuesbda@yahoo.com. Once again, it's issuesbda@yahoo.com. Wayne, customer service. I remember a couple of years ago when you took over the CEO.
5 years ago.
5 years ago. That hasn't been that long. Wow. Happened to be at a mutual friend, and we were talking about Digicel's customer service, which frankly at that time, through experiences that I had, it wasn't that great. What is it like now?
I think whenever one is dealing with a living, breathing organism, right now we have 77 employees, the majority of them customer facing. There is a belief that Bermudians are known for customer service, and that's how we made our livelihood over the years in the hotel industry and the hospitality industry. We realized that was something that we had to work diligently on, and we have made that as our number one internal focus, getting the customer service right. We had to look at a number of elements of it, and the first thing I had to do was put together a training model so our young people could see how you treat customers, what customers want. We did internal surveys, we hired trainers, we've done a number of things internally to make sure that customer service stays our focus. I think sometimes we forget where our bread is buttered as a country, and we're ever so mindful as the only time we're able to keep our margins is if we keep our customers happy. So that has been one of our clear and clear focus. I have noticed an immediate response by the staff, wanting to be trained, accepting the training. There has been an increase in our customers' customer service, and it has gotten better. We have done a number of focus groups. We have a number of local agencies that have done customer mystery shoppers, and we do customer surveys, and we've been focusing a lot on delivering a high standard of customer service. It's not still perfect, it's not still where I want it to be, but it's definitely a work in progress. I can definitely say in the last 3 years we've seen a beautiful increase in it. We made a choice when given the opportunity to move our customer care department abroad. I felt it important that I keep our customer care in Bermuda, to develop young people that can answer questions, answer queries, understand what people want. There is a part of the night from like around 6 o'clock at night to 7 o'clock the following morning where calls are answered overseas. But the majority of those questions, even for our Transact business, we answer a number of questions, deal with a number of queries. Sometimes they go into our customer care call center. There are 500 calls in a morning. Yes, they're dealing with emails. They're answering sometimes 400 email a day. When people are coming to the stores on a busy time, they're seeing sometimes 200 and 300 customers coming in for bill payments, activations, bill queries. And so you're dealing with a number of customer interactions. All it does is take one bad interaction, someone with a bad attitude, a churlish disposition, to mess it up for the entire team.
Frank, customer service. A year or so ago, some survey company in Bermuda did a survey, and you guys came out to be number one or close to number one in terms of customer service. What is it that you did or your company did to have such good customer service?
Yeah, that might have been the Bermudian Magazine ranking. So we were chosen 2 years in a row as a top cellular provider on the island, and so obviously very proud of that. I think a couple of things for us. I think number one, the reputation for the company and the brand, appeals to the right people out there. So I think we've managed to hire some very good people at cellOne. And then secondly, as Wayne talked about, at Digicel has been the training. We have a full-time trainer. That's all she does. Is documentation, training, and assessment. That's been, I think, a great investment for us and produced, a lot of dividends in terms of customer care. So,
let me ask you this: I'm a cellOne customer. No offense to Digicel. I'm a cellOne customer.
As you should be.
And I noticed after you guys purchased M3, when I came into your store, your main store, be crowded, packed. Got a long line.
Yep.
Frankly, it was irritating.
Yep.
I don't see that now. Maybe I'm going in at the wrong time, but I don't see those long lines.
Yeah, I mean, when we did the merger, there was definitely some teething pains up front. But we expanded the store, added more reps. We now have a full-time greeter. So greeter expediter, Johnny. So when you come in the door, his goal is to get you back out the door as quickly as possible, solve your problem as quickly as possible. So it's over 2,000. The Church Street store is a beautiful store. It's over 2,000 square feet, and yeah, we've gotten the queues under control, except for things like Black Friday. Yeah,
very good.
So it's been good.
Wayne, one of the things that I'm aware of, that again, when you took the company over, you wanted to have something in the Court Street area. You wanted to have a face, Digicel to have a face on the Court Street area. I see there is a store there now, but why did you want to have a presence there?
It's a natural progression. The company, the brand Digicel, has always gone into places in the Caribbean, in the South Pacific, and now into Latin America that everyone else thought was a risk, should the benefit of the people that live in that area and maximize on the opportunity. We also saw North Hamilton as an excellent place to invest. There were a number of people that did not want to come into Hamilton, were looking for an opportunity. There were a number of working Bermudians that are in that area that wanted the opportunity to have an awesome location that looked just like Front Street or Reed Street. And it was our endeavor to say, you know what, let's give the best facility that we will put on Church Street. Let's put that on Court Street, and I guarantee you that people will treat it accordingly, and that you'll get a high level of foot traffic as a result. We decided to put our smartphone center on Court Street as well, and drive business there. As a result, going into this is our third year on Court Street. There have been very few incidents. The shop opens at 8 o'clock in the morning. It's open 7 days a week, and so people are able to go there. It closes at 7 o'clock at night. And so what we decided to do is let it reflect the community and give the community somewhere where they can go. I was talking to some of the store owners in that vicinity, and they've immediately seen an uplift in their custom as a result of people going to the Court Street store, but going across for a beef pie, or going next door to the Caribbean market. And so you see the dollar now circulating more in that neighborhood before it goes out. But the reality of it is that you have to invest in the people of Bermuda. That's something that our company is big on, is allowing people to be a part of the brand and going and taking something and making them feel proud about it, and they have embraced the brand on Court Street.
Okay. Gentlemen, let me ask this question, and it came to my mind as you were talking about hiring Bermudians. In fact, I was just listening to a radio program today, talk show, and they were talking about the work ethics of the Bermudian. What would you have to say about the work ethics of Bermudian as compared to guest workers?
As compared to guest workers?
Yeah.
I mean, I can speak directly to the team that we have, and I think we've been quite fortunate to, especially in our retail store, we've been quite fortunate to hire a very a young and eager bunch who have want to work in a dynamic local technology company. So again, looking at our employee base, they work hard, they know what they're doing, and for the most part, we don't get many complaints. We don't get many complaints from our customers, and internally from managers. It all works well.
Okay, Wayne.
I think it's an incubator for leadership. I think
incubator for leadership.
Yeah.
Wow, let's coin that. Yeah. But what do you mean by that?
Because when you are a leader and you have people under your tutelage, or that come under the aegis of your leadership, they have something to look to. So when you put together training programs that hold people accountable, the way they flourish in an organization, if they see opportunity, and they see leadership by example. And so when you put all of those elements in place, people want to be in an environment where it's dynamic, as Frank said, where they can learn and where they can matriculate up. And so what we did was we showed young Bermudians that you just don't come in and you stay in the store. We did a direct opportunity for people to go through our company. I can tell you that our HR director started off as a secretary. She had a degree in human resources, waited for the right opportunity. When the right opportunity came, she's now the HR director. Our customer care director, one of the most senior posts in our company, started off as a greeter in the store. He then went to, he was on the front desk. He's now the customer care director. So I can go after manager after manager. So a person in our business can see, you know what, I can start off in the retail store, but there is a direct road to elevation and to better opportunities, but more importantly, that you're able to take care of your family. I don't subscribe to the notion that Bermudians are lazy or that guest workers work hard. I don't have my team, guest workers and Bermudian workers. We just have a team. A person happens to be born in another country, but you can't run a successful company when it is polarized. Guest workers and Bermudian workers, you have a team, and you have to put aside color, put aside place of origin, and you work for the goals that you're trying to achieve for whatever period.
Let me follow up with that. Your career, Wayne, prosecutor, chief of staff, now CEO. As you look back, are these some plans you deliberately made for your life, or is it? How did it all take place?
Nothing I ever did was by. Anybody that makes, sometimes I can't remember the saying is, fools make plans. God laughs at fools' plans or something like that. I never had any plans. I didn't plan to be a prosecutor either. I actually came home and worked for a company called Global Crossing, which was a telecommunications company right out of university in 1998. And that company actually became insolvent. And I had the opportunity to be a prosecutor. The reality of it is, I believe that every opportunity was given to me by God. Like I didn't even know that Digicel was hiring when that opportunity, when it availed itself. I simply was ready for the opportunity, and when I stepped in, I had a huge learning curve. I had to go to Trinidad and go to Jamaica for periods of time and be submerged in the telecommunications culture. But it was nothing that I had planned. I could have never foreseen being the CEO of a technology company. Sometimes I wake up and I pinch myself. The responsibility of it all hits me very hard. When you're looking at going through a budget, or you have to make a difficult decision, that weight of leadership, the weight of being a CEO, sometimes it is pressing, and you wonder what you've gotten yourself into when you're in difficult situations. But that's a price of the ticket. You don't plan for these things, but you, as a man, as a person of faith, you just have to work through whatever challenge there might be. But all in all, it's been a phenomenal experience for me personally, and I take great pride in the development of the team and our accomplishments as a company.
Yeah. Frank, your growth in cellOne, I know you didn't start in cellOne, so how did that progression go for you?
I worked for Bacardi for almost 20 years, and came up through the ranks, and I started with them, here in Bermuda. My background is in finance. I'm an accountant, and then worked my way through and up through. Some global operations and manufacturing roles in Bacardi, which took me to Toronto, took me to Miami, and then I ended up back in Bermuda. And then shortly after I came back in 2007, started with cellOne. But I think Wayne would appreciate this. I mean, my upbringing was, parents Portuguese, so being Portuguese Bermudian.
And so both of you are Bermudians.
But I am Bermudian, and Portuguese Bermudian. So both my parents are Portuguese, Wayne talks about the strength that religion brings. But for me, it's been maybe a little bit of that, but mostly family and being young and being pushed along every day indirectly and directly by my parents. I mean, my father couldn't read or write. And my mother, the only thing my father could do was sign his paycheck that he used to get from the Harmony Club. And he used to come home with all his paychecks. And my mother would do everything else. She was the only one, of the two of them, she was the only one that could read. Mm-hmm. And so the message always from my parents was, do your best, do it differently, get educated, and push and push and push yourself. Mm-hmm. So it's been the family thing, for me, and being Portuguese, and back then it was a little
stigma.
And there still is, but there is, as Wayne just said, there was a stigma back then. Mm-hmm. And in fact, my father used to say to me, in some ways it was an easier time because Portuguese were treated the same as blacks, and because my father was just as equally discriminated, but in different ways. Mm-hmm. And but it was, for me, it was a fascinating thing with my parents, with the, like I said, with the pushing along, and you can do better, you can do more, and of course.
Now I hear you talking about religion and the influence of parents. And I know we're coming off telecommunication a little, but as we look at what's happening in Bermuda today with gangs and so forth, what role does family and religion need to play in something like this?
I think I was tying into telecommunications because, let me just say this firstly, there will be no successful business in Bermuda if the crime and violence in Bermuda escalates, we will see everyone stop spending, people stop coming to Bermuda, people stop incorporating businesses here if this is not a safe place to be domiciled, or if this is a place where you hear of grocery stores being robbed at night. So this is a national emergency. I think that family, and we all know this, the family is the epicenter of our existence. And in Bermuda, we have to push family more. We have to push faith more. I don't think that we get it. I think that for such a long period of time in Bermuda, we pushed education and our kids going off to school. And a lot of us worked in the exam company world and in the business world. And we strove so much that we worked in the hotel 2 and 3 jobs. And we're seeing a generation of young men that do not understand the importance of family, of hard work, and of virtue. And unfortunately, when they have such a low tolerance for life, and a low respect for mankind, we're seeing young men going and walking into a grocery store and shooting 2 people at 7 o'clock at night. And so it is deeply concerning. Our churches, I think we have to do more. I think the value of church is not the building. I think as a community with the most churches per capita in the free world, we have to do more to get outside, to do mentoring programs, to allow young men in Bermuda to have a place of refuge. Right upstairs of us, they have the GED program at the Hamilton Seventh-day Adventist Church. 120 people involved that don't have high school diplomas. How could you be in a country, the basic that you need to get any job with a modicum of strength is a GED or high school diploma? So a lot of our young kids at 16 are leaving school without having the basic education. There is a direct correlation, the Doctors Minch's report, with an education and with a better way of life and a decreasing in the life of crime. And so family, education, and a community of faith, I think those 3 things are very important. It's not a panacea, and it's going to be difficult for us to get through this, but I think you have to have those 3 prongs if we're even to make a stab at it.
So Frank, do you see family and the relationship that family brings as something that can decrease or somehow have positive impact on the gang violence that we're having?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I was very fortunate to be part of a very healthy family environment. I had 2 parents and who really cared for each other and who cared for their kids and were intimately involved with what we did. And I think it's a pretty complicated problem Bermuda has, I think. And again, I'm not an expert at this, but seeing from the outside some of these issues, and we have some of this with our employees, is it's got to be super complicated, being a single parent, and not having, in particular, that male role model with you every single day. I mean, I just can't imagine when I was a teenager, coming up and not having my father there. So I already think there's a whole whack of families on this island who just come out of this thing disadvantaged because there's only one person in the family, and usually the female. And then you throw along with that the fact that they have to make ends meet. So as Wayne talked about, at least in the old hotel days, because my father came out of the hotel days. People holding down 2, 3, 4 jobs to make ends meet. Just by simple arithmetic, there's no hours in the day to spend time with your kid. Mm-hmm. Simple things like, and my wife is in the teaching profession, she over at Cedar Bridge. How do these parents check up on their kids and make sure that they've done their assignments? Mm-hmm. So kids are showing up and they're not showing up without enough food in their stomachs. They're not showing up with clean and pressed uniforms. And nobody's asked about, well, did you do your reading this evening? Did you do your homework? So these kids are they're just damned in a way. So when everybody talks to the government and bashes on the government and the police about you need to fix all this, it's a pretty complicated problem. And it's not going to be one big thing that we need to do. It's going to be a whole host of things that this country is going to need to do. And it's not going to get fixed overnight.
Yeah. Thank you, gentlemen. We've had on issues this evening the top brass from the 2 cell companies that we have here, Wayne Caines and Frank Amaral. We've even talked a little bit about some of the social issues and social problems we have here in Bermuda. And we've heard that family, education, and God can play a positive impact. And again, we thank you for joining Issues. We look forward to being with you next week.